WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hello, my name is Noyana Pierre-Lewis, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey guys, it's John.
And I'd like to thank you for tuning in and listening to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum, Martin County's Heritage Station. Thank you all for tuning in once more. And both John and I are students at South Fork High School, part of the Youth and Government program at our school, which is a youth-run, youth-led team advocacy program that we both strongly love and enjoy. But before we get into today's topics, questions, and ideas that we shall be discussing deeply, I'd like to say happy birthday to my amazing aunt, who is an inspiration to me, who I deeply love and appreciate. A lot of people around me say I'm exactly like her, which makes me very happy because she is a strong, kind, caring woman that I long to be and want to grow up to be into. Honestly, she's amazing, and there have been times where she's really supported me and been there for me, and she's always proud of me, and I appreciate her love from afar. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting me. I love you, and happy birthday. Anyways, continuing on, I have a fun question for you all today, and that question is, those of you who are listening out there, why is it unprofessional to send an email out to someone really late at night? Please tell me what is the bad reputation behind that, because maybe I have not been exposed to the real world yet when it comes to the proper etiquette of email, but I just like to know, since recently I've been told that, and I was just curious ever since, and I asked the question randomly before a math test that I took today, and everybody was looking at me like, where did this come from? Why? And I even asked my teacher, and it was a really fun discussion that we had in class. But yes, so call in. Our number is 220-WSTU. And for those of you who missed it the first time, 220-9788. I would love to hear your response. Anyways, getting into our topics. One, is it acceptable, if ever, to disobey the law? A question I found on the internet when diving into my topics that I wanted to bring to y'all today. And I just decided to go out to my peers and ask them, well, when is it okay to disobey the law? And here are some of the responses that I received. And they were rather graphic, but then others were actually extremely civil. So I'll just read some of the appropriate ones to you. It would be acceptable to disobey the law for a medical emergency, or if the law didn't make sense or is morally outdated. And by breaking this law in place, people could recognize that as an effort of raising awareness to change it. Or it's okay to break the law in a vigilante type of situation where you're preventing crime by use of illegal means. Those are just some short responses that I got. But here's the grade A essay that I received from my friend, and I quote, "Because the law already has exceptions to punishments and statutory enforcements, I would say it is never okay to disobey the law. The law is in place to protect citizens of our country and maintain individual liberty. Breaking the law jeopardizes our society's ability to be free, so it should never be acceptable to break the law." End quote. Another amazing grade A essay that another friend addressed that I felt compared to share states, "There's a difference between socially and legally acceptable laws. I do not know that much, but there are a lot of different reasons that affect whether or not it should be acceptable to disobey the law, such as biases, loopholes, and other defenses. Yet socially acceptable reasons for disobeying a law stems from a huge range of beliefs, regardless of political party. And sometimes you have cases of jaywalking, underage drinking, taking some drugs, speeding, shoplifting, small fights, and the list can go on. And all of these are examples of things that can be seen as socially acceptable, but not legally." End quote. And the last one that I gathered was, when you feel the law is unjust, when you feel the law is unjust, you should take action in advance, civilly. There are proper methods in place, though, where you can civilly take that action, but in a perfect world, there is no acceptable time to disobey the law. However, sometimes the injustices that occur cannot wait for legislation, In reality, though, it is not that simple at all. End quote. So those are just a few of the responses I gained from my peers. I really liked those. I thought they were
Some
interesting.
of them were very thoughtful.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, those were from the minds of my teachers and IB students, so I hope that reflects the type of program that we're running at Southwark. But yes. Anyways, John, what would you like to share with us for today?
Well, Noyana, this one's like a little bit older, but like I just kind of stumbled upon it. Like I think it happened like about 2 months ago, but anyways, so like y'all probably been to a museum or something, I presume, just
Mhm.
like before Corona hit and everything. Anyways, just like while I was stumbling upon them, I found an article about a dinosaur, like skeleton that was like not skeleton, like I'll just jump right into it. Like reading an article from CNN, it was like a notosaur, basically a type of ankylosaurus. Like to give a description, it's basically like a spiky back kind of dinosaur with
Okay.
like a ball-shaped tail with have like spikes on it, kind of like a morning star. Just like heavily protective. It's a herbivore.
Sounds like you're describing a stegosaurus.
No, it's a little
That's
bit
a spiny.
it's a little bit lower and it's like kind of scaled laid back. It's not
Alright.
have a pointy
All right.
pointy up tail.
Okay.
And I guess
All right.
I guess that's how. Yeah. Anyways, it had some of its like flesh and stuff. It even had like its stomach, like some of its stomach and its contacts like intact. And like this one was like about just 110 million years old, which I just find just absurd,
Wow.
just in general. I
Wow.
mean, just like I'll just get back into it, kind of just. Like the educated guess from scientists is it was swept out to sea, then just it kind of just got buried in sediment, and then it just got preserved to like that level that everything was just intact. It took a man 6 whole years just to just get it out of all that, which is just absurd.
Wow.
I mean, just it's amazing, seriously. Just to quote a man named David Greenwood, a biologist at Brandon University, the leaf fragments and other plant fossils were preserved to the cells, which is just, it's amazing. I mean, just like, and from when I was reading, they were able to compare it to like modern samples of plants and such, which I just find amazing. There was also like, it basically implied like different things that were going on at the time. Like there were pieces of charcoal and such, because at the time there was like massive eruptions and stuff.
Wow.
So there was like charcoal and stuff in the floor, which makes sense while there was sun because the new greens and such near the bottom, so they have to intake some at least. And like reading up on another site about it, they could even they could even tell its hue, like its skin color hue, which is that just surprised me because it was like that well preserved that they could take one of the cells and just they could do it like that much. It's amazing because I mean like our art pieces don't last a lot long, and we haven't even been for like a couple thousand years, like 100 200 years. All our art pieces pretty much are gone, and I mean just it's amazing. Just like, you all have any comments about it?
Well, you can. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Well, I can't really say much since my knowledge of dinosaurs only comes from the PBS show of Dinosaur Train. So that's all I know. But would you like to add anything, Mr. Frank?
Well, I just find it sounds like Jurassic Park almost,
Mhm.
So theoretically, if they've got live cells, they could theoretically
Like I
bring it back.
don't
Uh-oh.
believe. Oh, God. It's a herbivore though. I also don't think the cells were alive. I think it was just like fossilized to the extent where everything was like that well preserved that they
Preserved?
could
Okay.
just.
No organic cells then. No organic living cells.
I don't believe so.
No, but maybe some DNA.
Maybe that would be interesting though. It's
So
a
if there's
herbivore.
DNA, then at least it's not going to be a man eater. Right?
Wave.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep. Anyways, segue. I wanted to talk a little bit about school and what I've observed and some of my personal feelings. Most of this is my experience and bits of pieces of knowledge that I've gained, and I would like to hear your thoughts on this too. And if you would like to correct me, disagree, agree, have a chat, our number is once again 220-WSTU 220-9788. So the reason why I bring this topic to you all today is because this week we are having testing, FSA makeups, and since we missed the opportunity to take it last spring, because of COVID and whatnot, we need to make this up again for juniors at least. This is an exam that we need in order to graduate, so it's very important. And now I experienced something interesting throughout this week, and it was the lack of desire for school in general is what I witnessed. I don't know how to describe it because I am so used to the IB perspective where we are constantly thinking deeper, having higher level discussions. We're grouped into classes with students who take their studies, their grades, and testing seriously. And of course, within any program, within any type of environment you're in, there's always going to be people who do not put as much importance into school or what they're doing. But I still think, at least within the IB program, the students who do not put as much work and effort, they still are amazing. And they are able to at least keep up with the rest of us. But in my opinion, this week, I sat in a testing room, with a whole bunch of kids who I've never seen before, and they were not an IB, and clearly they did not take the test seriously. Now, this is not to say if you're not an IB, you're not smart or whatever, because I have many friends who are not an IB, and they are one of the smartest people I've ever seen in my entire life. I have seen many people who have gone through and exceeded doing dual enrollment, AP classes, etc., etc. But I'm just speaking about the mindset and many other students within my class who were separated, witnessed as well from the kids who were not in our little program area. And I understand that our school system is not as perfect as we want it to be, as it does take after the factory model style of education, which was implemented into our system because schools were originally built to train for future factory workers during the Industrial Revolution. And yet this system is still being used today, although it is changing little by little, and programs like IB, AP, dual enrollment, etc., try to combat this type of learning, teaching, and curriculum. That's just a fun fact, though. But continuing on, one thing I'd like for people to consider is that, and I quote from an article that explained this way better than I could ever explain into words, is that sometimes not everybody has the same sources and advantages as others, resulting in them not being able to show their true potential. This has a lot to do with social class and community, but mainly the school environment. One school can have all the resources to do a lot for kids and go above and beyond, while others may not even have the required textbooks or not even a teacher to teach them, resulting in a failure in the college process, end quote. Now, these factors are hard to control, but are inevitably true. Standardized tests are boring, and we have unstimulating classes that suck the lives out of students. But being in that testing room with non-IB kids proved that, but also disproved it in a way. My fellow classmates walked into these tests prepared to fail, and they took it rather very lightly, in fact. I've heard about kids going into these tests, like FSA Writes, which is a part of FSA Reading 1 and 2, with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to write a whole bunch of random words for this test, knowing that FSA Writes requires you to write an essay that's either argumentative or informative. I ever heard a student in my testing room talk to another kid about why he hasn't been in school in ages, and his response to his buddy who was telling him to come back to school was something along the lines of, just stay home, it's easy. You fake the work and cheat. Now, at this point, it's not the school's fault for their failure of wanting to be educated, of wanting to do well. Okay, this is a mindset that they are putting into their heads and that they are believing in because they do not wish to be better, regardless of what the school system provides them. Okay, and at this point, it's as 16 and 17 years old, we know how important school is. We understand because this is something that has been beat into our heads ever since middle school. And I do think the school system does say if you're not successful in your grades, if you don't score high, you may not even be successful to begin with, which is understandable. But I can't help but wonder, when we were younger, did the system fail us? Why is it that those who truly want to succeed within their educational career suffer, spend ages working hard, and still not reach their potential, or they don't even have that momentum of success built up yet? How come the winners and the losers are weeded out in this way? I can't help but wonder about my fellow students who do think like this, who think it's okay to go into a major exam, by the way. This, like I said, you cannot graduate if you do not have this test passed. And something that our school also provides is that if you take the SAT or the ACT, if you get an acceptable score on that, then you can pass. That could excuse you from taking the FSA. But in my opinion, I think the SAT is way harder. FSA writes and reading is so much easier. Okay, I'd rather take the opportunity to score on something that is within my reach of being successful at, rather than depending on something where I might not even do that well. These things I question. I truly do question. Was it the confinements that we experienced when we were younger? Was it the bad teachers that we had? Was it the lack of engagement at a young age that caused this lack of respect or acknowledgement of the opportunities that we have within Martin County specifically to gain such an education? Now, I'm not even saying you need to be an IB, you need to be an AP student. You can even be an honor student, or you could be nothing. But where you are, you can decide your path. You can decide your legacy. You can decide the things that you want to do. But the fact that you're going into a test saying that you're going to write random words when this is your high school career is, you can't blame our school system at that point. And one of the answers that I came up with to these stream of questions I have been asking is that our role models in social media, okay, I think it's not the main factor. It is not. But I think it is something that does contribute to the lack of education. Since while researching, it was alarming to see how many celebrities have dropped out of school. And now this is, of course, not to belittle or to put down what these celebrities have achieved without school, without having an education. But something I also always hear from my fellow classmates is that, well, this person dropped out of school and they're successful. Well, this person is doing this and they don't have a high school diploma, or they dropped out of college, or they did this. Regardless, this is something that always irks me because, of course, I have to leave as somebody who comes from a non-privileged background, as somebody who comes from a country where education is so scarce, where it's hard to come across because people have to work so hard to take care of their families because there is that lack of privilege. And to see that we are in a county at least that has a school system that is respectable and that has produced students who can go so above and before and beyond, it's disheartening to hear that and to see that they waste their potential. So one of the last questions I have to ask before we address our caller is that, is education the sole purpose of our lives based upon the way our schools are built? And I ask this in the sense of, if you do not do well in school, score high on tests, or go to Ivy League schools, can you be successful in the way our American society portrays success? Does the way our school system works almost subconsciously indoctrinate students to understand that you cannot be successful? Or is it a generational problem that Gen Z is not valuing education because we're just so busy seeking ways to enjoy life or to be ourselves? Is it something within a family? Is it the lack of family morals that we have today? Or is it something that many generations before us have been seeing? Regardless, caller, how are you doing today?
Hello, how are you doing, young lady?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good. I just tuned into your show, and I like your show very much. It is very informing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm enjoying the topics you are talking about.
Would you like to answer some of the questions I addressed?
Well, I just tuned in about 5 minutes ago, but I had a question for you, young adults. Are you all going to be watching the debate this evening?
No, I will not. I have lots of homework to do.
Okay.
I probably
Okay.
will be watching it. I do have a bit of homework, but I think I can get it done in time to watch it.
Okay, very good. But I do have a question to ask in regards to the debate. What are your thoughts in regards to them muting the microphones on the president and the opposing Mr. Joe Biden? How do you feel about that? That now they will be able to mute the microphones?
So,
I will listen off the air because I'm having my cell phone is going in and out. Thank you.
okay, no problem. Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you asking that question. One thing, since we did talk about freedom of speech, so I think there's two sides to it. Okay, so the first side is I think the muted mics will stop all of the banter that happens between these presidential candidates, and we see it all the time throughout history. It's one attacking the other, saying this and that, cutting people off, and et cetera, et cetera. So though I think the muting of the microphones will be built in to have that sense of control and efficiency, but at the same time, and John, you can totally talk about this afterwards, after you see it, is the way they're going to use it. Are they going to use it to suppress one candidate over the other? Is it going to be used in a means of limiting free speech and allowing the candidates to give the American people the answers that they want? So it all depends on how it's going to go down. But I think it's okay as long as the person who is controlling the microphones is using them to their utmost response. They're following the guidelines that are laid out to them, and keeping the control, keeping the civility between the two candidates and whatnot. So that way people can tune in, get the information that they need, and then be done.
Yeah, like I pretty much agree. As long as the conductor is fairly well trained and just doesn't show bias or anything, I just it should be good. I hope they don't cut them off mid, if they're finishing up a thought, just have them finish up the thought, please, and then just do that. I don't want them to cut it off immediately, though.
Yeah. Mr. Frank, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is we went in the Wayback Machine and we looked at the vice presidential debate between Paul Ryan and Joe Biden.
Really?
When he was running for vice president under the Obama administration 8 years ago. And in that Wayback Machine, Joe Biden had interrupted Paul Ryan 83 times.
83.
Wow.
Yeah, during that debate. So that was kind of an interesting, but no one seemed to complain about that back then. So I thought that was interesting. Like you said earlier in your comments, that freedom of speech, people should be allowed to express themselves, and people can take their takeaway from how people conduct themselves would be the deciding factor. So I'm a big believer of hands off. Let the chips fall where they do. And let people perform at their best.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. Anyways, before we continue on, do you have any answers to my questions that I threw out at you guys?
That was a laundry list of questions.
Oh, yes. I everybody who knows me in person, I ask questions. I talk a lot. I rave about these things at school. Everybody's like, why is this girl screaming about all of these topics? But there are answers that maybe it's just a detachment, because like I said, my background, my parents, they already know. They push education like crazy because it's the number one thing that we have so much access to.
Right.
And I was almost shocked to hear some of the response, and I heard so much more. These kids were eager. They were almost getting upset at the teacher for not letting them just leave after the test. And it was so scary to see that these children.
An entitlement culture.
Yes.
I think is what you're really indirectly dancing around.
Yeah,
but it's entitlement.
But I don't know. I also think it's the role models that we have as well.
Well, yeah,
So-
who behave as though they're entitled.
I do feel like it's a lack of desire, though. I mean, just some of us,
Sure.
if we come from such as an unprivileged backgrounds, or for example, one of my parents is from Asia and they instill education like crazy. like I also have a self-drive. Like if I don't get good grades, I'll be disappointed in myself.
Right.
And I'll be like, why didn't I
Mhm.
get that B, A? How did I end up with like a C or something? I mean, it just upsets me. Though I do feel like sometimes
All right, John, stand by.
they don't come from like
Stand
a
by.
place where like they have like a drive that can be instilled. Like they may come from a household that doesn't value it, and their teachers don't push as hard
Mhm.
because they should already
John,
have
call
it.
back.
Oh no,
Oh,
it's all good. Yes, Mr. John, please call back. Anyways, continue on your streak.
just like kind of like that though. Like if I don't feel like usually if they come from like a more unprivileged, let me rephrase that. Just
Mhm.
like usually some of them, like what you're saying, if they don't have the drive, I feel like their household usually doesn't enforce it, or if they do, it's more like a lack of like what's the worth in it.
Mhm.
Like like kind of like what you say, you see so many successful people around you, but I think some of them don't realize that those people are like one out of like
Mhm.
millions and 1000000s, and they have like a special talent, like sometimes a persona
Mhm.
or something like that, and they think, oh, I can do that too, but they don't realize what goes into that. And then you hear their stories, just like I spent like hours upon hours building this, and
Yeah.
it's just
Most of the celebrities I looked into, like Rihanna, Jim Carrey, Jennifer Lawrence, these people they dropped out of school for a specific career
Mm.
that was already set out for them. It's not as easy, and I see this all the time. YouTubers, since YouTube is a big thing, TikTok is a big thing, Instagram is a big thing. It's not easy to just drop out of school and say, I'm going to be famous on Instagram, I'm going to be famous on TikTok, I'm going to be famous on YouTube.
And I feel like there's so many factors that go into it. Like
Mhm.
if you have like no support, you have to like figure out how to manage yourself or something. Like
Mhm.
because I know most families, like if you drop out, you're not going to have any support because they
Mhm.
want you to go back to it. And it's just like they'll have to figure out how to manage themselves, like how they're going to get food, like rent, lodging, and all that. And like our schools don't usually like teach us how to do that usually. So it's a bit complicated in my opinion.
It is. Anyways, Mr. John, how are you doing this week?
Yeah, you know what I'd like on the show tonight about Trump and Biden, the last gig they're due. I'd like them to ask Trump if he still believes in climate change as a hoax.
Interesting. Hopefully they will, because I know that is a major controversy surrounding him.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine President of the United States, getting us out of the Paris Agreement, and he sets up the Environmental Protection Agency is run by a guy that owns a coal company.
Oh.
Interesting.
He's right in bed with big business, and that's why he doesn't want to be concerned about climate change. He doesn't care about the next generation.
Well, I also think the next generation should have a sense of responsibility placed within them as well. Since I've heard from my teacher that us Gen Zers have a savior complex as well. But I'd like to ask you, what do you think about us not respecting education? Really quickly before we have to go to break.
Not respecting education. Who?
Our younger generation. Since I did kind of go into a story about how my fellow classmates did not really appreciate the opportunity that we're given here in Martin County to be able to learn. So
they don't want to learn whether they're going to sell drugs for the rest of their life or what.
I don't know. Maybe they're trying to drop out of school and become
are they saying they don't need an education to
I don't
make a
know.
living?
Let's finish this conversation. Call me back, please. Anyways, we are going to our break.
Righto. Okay, thank you.
No
Bye.
problem. We're going into our break. I shall see you soon. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome back. We are back once again, double backs. But you're listening to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum, and we have a caller right off the bat. Samantha Bell, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Nono?
Oh, I am amazing, girl. So, what do you have to lay upon us today?
Nothing much. You've just been talking about the school, and I just wanted to talk to you about it because, yeah, you just talked about it. It's like I've just been like having those shower conversations about it too. It's like, here now we can finally talk to someone about it.
Yeah. Well, why don't you enlighten us on your experience? I'm pretty sure both of us experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
Even though we were not in the same testing room, but I'm glad you feel that there's this consensus of not wanting to acknowledge the fact that we are blessed to be able to, gain an education.
Exactly. I just think a lot of pop culture has just put into kind of like the incentive of just like you've been saying of like, oh, the celebrity dropped out and they're famous, or and it's just stuff like that has really just implemented in our minds. And I don't know if it's a bad thing, but like stuff like the gaming community, a lot of people are now streaming on, a lot of people are just doing things other than not predominantly school. And I feel like, I don't know, a big part of me has a sense of like, maybe in the future, we're not really going to have a strong kind of sector of people like doctors and et cetera, because so many people are going into more like, I want to be a singer, I want to get popular off TikTok, or I want to be a gamer from Twitch. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be like, instead of a graying population, we're going to have a graying kind of job situation, because some people just aren't doing, like, I can say that my sister, she's not really educational strong. My older sister, she is, but she's a millennial. I think Gen Z is really the generation that doesn't really consider or really think education as important. And the testing thing you were talking about. I'm not going to test this year. I have to wait till the spring or have my SAT score, because Corona's just that. I just can't risk it.
Girl, you are a completely different situation. I understand your situation. Okay, I was not addressing you on that. Okay, I hope you know that.
Oh my god, you're good. I was just like, I didn't test, but last year for the PSAT, people were just like throwing pencils on the roof, like not even caring. It's like, well, what the heck? It's like if I wish I lived like a European or Asian country, because like so many of those countries value education so much more. Like it's ridiculous.
Yes.
But do you think that America is an outlier in just of not really valuing education, or do you think it's more of a predominant or starting to be a global trend?
I do think America is the outlier, because I've seen videos, I know certain cultures, especially my own, where education it's scarce and it's a privilege, especially within those countries. And I know, John, we were talking about, it's even, sorry, I just hit the microphone. And it's even within our own school system. And like I mentioned before, the way our school system is built, it is almost meant to make you fail. You know what I mean? The teachers that we have, and I know, Sam, you see it all the time. Our teachers are constantly being beat down by the system. I mean, I have a teacher who is constantly frustrated by the administration and the things that they're pushing. When the teachers are at limit, what about us? We have another calling in. Girl, I appreciate you so much for calling. I love you so much, and I shall see you soon. I love you too, Sam. Thank you so much for your support. Bye. All right, then. The other caller? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
Mr. Bob!
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to call you when I was coming back from the Keys last week.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. But I hope you find that show on YouTube, since I wrote that essay for you, and it was absolutely amazing. So if you missed it, please go back and watch it.
Oh, how do I get to it? Just
So go into YouTube, type in WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum.
Oh, okay, I know, I got
date.
that. Oh, okay, yeah, I can get to that. I'm not savvy.
Yay! Anyways, before we move on from this long education topic, What do you have to say about that?
I didn't hear. I just got home and
Oh,
I was mostly calling about the debate tonight.
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah, it's. I think it's only an hour, which would be good for Joe. He's got to get to bed.
Hmm.
But you know, and I was saying, I think a couple things that Trump could do. He could remember Mr. Microphone, the kid's toy that it was like the precursor to karaoke. Had a microphone with a battery in it, and it worked.
Huh.
Yeah,
Not my
he should-
generation, but
Is this like
interesting.
the
Yeah,
mic bop
He
thing?
should put it in his pocket because nobody searches him except Secret Service. You know, and then he should also find out from the former Secret Service or Joe Biden's Secret Service what his favorite hair perfume is, and he should spray the whole bottle on himself. That'll
Keep the
drive.
flies away.
Joe will be off his rock. He won't know what's going on. And then if it gets really bad and they start leaning towards Biden, they should do what Dan Perino said he should have did in the last debate. I think Trump should just finally say, like, right in the middle, I secede the rest of my time to Joe Biden.
Yes.
And let him talk and stumble for the next how many minutes, you know?
How do
Wow.
you feel about like the muting system though? Because we just had like a caller
Yeah.
just call in recently about that. Like, what's your thoughts upon that?
What'd you say?
Like during this presidential debate, there's like a mute button so they can mute people, make it like even time and such.
Yeah, well, I don't like it.
Each candidate gets 2 minutes to speak on the topic, and then that's it. And then the mute button is actuated, so they can't ramble on. The commission claims the reason why they're doing that is in order to keep the time equal between each candidate. That's their.
Oh yeah.
That's their. That's their. That's their story. They're sticking to it.
Yep. Well, how you been, Frank?
All right, can't complain. My feet hit the
Okay.
floor this morning. I know it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
sounds like Limbaugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he says every day he wakes up and he thanks God he's alive still.
Yes.
All right. Well, sorry for cutting you off, Mr. Bob. I always appreciate you
no problem.
calling
I just
in.
wanted to say hey. And,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Please listen to the YouTube because I spent a lot of time and I sat for 2 hours watching Fox News and I had the worst nightmare afterwards because my head hurt. So please, I spent a lot of time writing that essay.
I will.
I did my homework.
I will definitely check it out.
All right.
All
Then.
right, guys. Yeah, try to. Well, you can watch the debate in a replay, so
Mhm.
no big deal. Or,
I'll watch it just for you again. All right. All right then. Thank
All
you.
right.
Stay
Take care,
safe.
guys.
Mhm.
Enjoy the debate.
All right then, John. Because I've been talking so much, you can take it away for the rest of the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so like first one, it's kind of tied into the election a bit. Anyways, it's about election ballots. There was recently an election box in California that was set on fire, and it's suspected to be arson, which is just unsettling in my opinion, because according to CBS News, it's suspected to be arson. It's not because of a little match or something being thrown in, which is just not. It doesn't sit right with me. Just we already have enough to worry about, which is education, our jobs, just in general, just healthcare, and then we have the presidential debate tonight, and just all those things are going to be finalized, especially our president. Our president's going to be finalized soon. And just according to the article, 200 ballots were burned just in that one box alone, which just that was startling to me. I mean, just that is no small number. Just even one, that's still that no.
That's somebody's voice that got canceled.
Yeah. And I was just I was thinking about it, just it was they finally caught on to it about 8 o'clock at night, is what I remember from reading the article. It was just it took them that long. I mean, just what's not stopping anybody else from unconspicuously just throwing in a match or a timed something
Mhm.
into a random one along with a ballot, and then just setting up just like a couple inflamed. Because I mean, one's 200, just multiply that by 5, and you already have 1,000.
Yeah, that's very concerning.
There's
to hear.
also unofficial like ballot box also just like diverging from this, which is just, and then some people mark them as official boxes, and it's just like there's a bit of factors toying with the election a little bit.
No, I know we have like voters fraud and
Yeah.
the Russians coming in and messing with the election. I don't know, but you know, there's all these things that come in. Like, but burning ballots, is that common? Like,
No, not from what I understand.
The common thing is lost ballots that seem
Yeah.
to miraculously reappear, and then petitions to get them counted, although they've been lost. They kind of escape the system somehow, boxes of ballots, and then suddenly they need to be counted. But wait a minute, where were they when it was time to count the ballots? So that's an issue. But other foreign countries, to your point, have been attempting to meddle in our elections for many years. So this is nothing new. It's just become a meme that people want to talk about, but there's nothing new about it.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Well, next segment.
Okay, so like my next segment, like this is more opinionated, I guess, kind of. Anyways, just like recently, like from my understanding, the Pope was supporting same-sex couples. For context, like for those who have no clue like about what I'm talking about or anything of the sort, just like in the documentary Francesco is how you pronounce it, 1 to 2, I'm pretty sure. He said, quote, homosexual people have a right to be in a family. They're children of God and a right to be, and they, excuse my stuttering, sorry. They are children of God and a right to be, to a family. Nobody should be thrown out or be made miserable over it. And, quote, you can't kick somebody out of a family nor make their life miserable for this. What we have to have is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered. Just like kind of going into my own opinion, like this is
Isn't that already the law? Civil unions?
Well, in other countries, like I know in America we have.
See, he's a religious leader. I mean, for a religious leader to talk about civil law doesn't make sense to me.
Well, to me it makes sense because if I'm like, to my understanding, like in the church, you can't have that, and it's like, if I'm correct, it's in their holy books and such.
Holy books, yeah, okay.
No, just like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you know what I mean though? Like, it's part of their tradition and stuff, and I'm also pretty sure it's not allowed, just in general, to be like have a gay couple or such wedded inside a church. So in my opinion, what he's doing is like in other countries, like I know in America, we have like such civil union laws and such, but in other countries, there's nothing of the sort. So I find, like, in my opinion, it's kind of like a roundabout way. Instead of like upsetting like the entire church, saying they should be able to be married in the church. Oh, okay.
Yeah, right,
okay.
stand by.
Well, looks like I'm about to be corrected.
We got John's counterpoint here.
Hello, Mr. John. Welcome back.
No. That's a lady.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Sam. Hey, girl.
Love you to death. But the one thing I have to say, so the Bible is actually, so basically what happened is that what they're saying is they're actually saying a sin, a lie, basically just to have like, kind of like lie incestually with one another, kind of a lot in bed basically, and there was a complete mistranslation. And so now
wasn't that like man and child though, which was
basically
the original?
it was basically with the original, and people have changed it to homophobia. So in truth, there is nowhere in the Bible where it says that you can't be gay, because that's just not a thing in the Bible. And this could be. It just doesn't. You can be gay and get married. It just doesn't say. That's the only thing I wanted to say, because I've been a little interested in that recently, because I was like, oh, I thought they did, but there was mistranslations. But I do see what you're saying, because more so the Pope is just more of a traditionalist And so
Mhm.
it is kind of surprising that he would come out and say something like that.
Yeah.
More so because of the culture.
Like I do find it interesting because I know like the church usually had like a history, like a long line of history of like not supporting them, and sometimes even saying like they basically this goes against like the will of God and such. Just so I find it
100%.
interesting. Just like
The
out
church
of
would
like
say
the
it, but
like
the Bible doesn't.
all the time, it's just amazing. Just like one leader finally did that. I mean, just like it's kind of like conforming to modern times a little bit. It's just like I'm surprised.
I would have to agree. It is kind of surprising, to be honest, because they say it's a sin, but it's like it doesn't technically say, but because it's just such a widely accepted sin that it just became kind of integrated as a thing, kind of like an unspoken rule, more so. So I bet Kyle, he's a Catholic, he could probably talk a lot more and say talk about how it isn't. So yeah.
I do think it would take a bit of time for like everybody to be convinced for like for stuff like
But-
this to happen.
But that's how it is with lots of things, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, Sam, thank you. But we have a few minutes left, so we want to get a few more topics in. Anyways, thank you so much, Sam, for calling. It is always a pleasure, Boo. I love you. Goodbye. All right, John, take it away for our last few minutes.
Well, just like I kind of just want to like go back into like presidential stuff. Make sure you guys like all tune into the presidential debate tonight. Just make sure you know who you're voting for and such. It's extremely important, just like absurdly important for our country. Just our president's going to be elected soon. Like in my opinion, the president's
Yep,
like
I'm working the
candidates are a
polls,
bit-
everybody. I'm
Oh.
working the polls, so it's cracking down time.
Tell me how it goes, mate.
Oh, I will. Maybe I'll even share my experience because I'm going to be there for at least a good. It's from 7:45 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's
Right.
I think it's like 8 hours.
And you're locked in. You're locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't leave.
Yeah. So and there's a lot of rules and whatnot that goes into it.
Keep
So
keep the whole system safe.
but since we're on the topic of voting, and this is all purely just discussion for these past few minutes, last few minutes, I mean. Well, what is up with all the, can I even call it voting propaganda that I've been seeing?
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, so everybody knows the popular musical Alexander Hamilton. I mean Hamilton, but it's about Alexander Hamilton. And there was one of the songs I found on YouTube, and it was called "The Room Where It Happens," and that song is very, very good. And I was watching it because it was all these singers, and they were singing it over Zoom, and it was edited perfectly, propped up in place, and the harmonies were there. It was amazing. But throughout the video, it was, okay, you need to vote, this and that, and vote. And then I see all these ads where it's almost belittling Gen Z, being all like, oh, Gen Z is lazy, and I shouldn't be called lazy, even though I'm part of this Gen Z, because we don't want to vote. What is the meaning behind all of this propaganda? I feel like it's to a point where it's excessive and constantly in my face. It's almost terrifying. It's like I'm being peer pressured by the internet to vote, and I'm 16. And I mean, I am pre-registered, but that's
But
because
you
of
know that the tradition in Chicago is the vote early and vote often.
Really?
It's a joke.
Oh. But I just want to know, because this is constantly in my face. I don't know if anybody else is getting the ads where it's like, oh no, if Biden is president, all the economy that we've been enjoying
Or like
gloriously
vice versa. It's just
or with Trump has lied to us, and it's like, oh my goodness,
I feel
I'm
like if
trying to
this-
watch YouTube.
Like if I
That's
feel-
the only good thing about December. You no longer get political ads.
Yeah. But John, what were you trying to say?
Like I feel like if this was for anything else, I would like be decompelled for anything. Like
Really?
already it's like decompelling, because I mean like every 5 minutes you go onto YouTube video,
Mhm.
you go on to like any other site,
Mhm.
like CNN, just like you go on anywhere. There's already like headlines and stuff like Trump, blah blah blah, Mr. Biden, blah blah blah. And it's just like, please stop. Just
Yeah.
like it's upsetting almost.
Let it breathe.
And the ads aren't
Let
short
it
usually.
breathe. No, they're not. They are not. They're not. And most of them you cannot skip.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to watch videos so I can become a better person in this life, but I can't if the ad is 35 seconds long.
Oh
And
wait, can I comment on something?
Sure,
Do you know
go
how they
ahead.
all have like the same voice?
yes,
It's
that
the same
a
voice.
same ominous voice and like that music.
It's
It's
like
the music.
da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then it's always like Tega drums or something, or just like timpani drums, and it's something just
Mhm. And now this is not to say that voting is it's just the ads. It's just the ads, everybody.
It's
It's
too
so
much.
annoying. Let it breathe, let it simmer. Your vote does count though. So get into early voting, vote, make a change for America, okay? Anyways, tell somebody you love them. Happy birthday, Tatsimona. And I love you all. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye.